the secrets of ancient Egypt, which for thousands of years lay submerged beneath the Mediterranean. The treasures belong to two sunken cities which were thought to be the stuff of myth.
They are the secrets of Egypt, lost for millennia under the Mediterranean Sea. For centuries, two legendary underwater cities' treasures were thought to be mere myth, but in fact, they lay buried and waiting to be unearthed. One journalist who was once granted access on site said the experience was the kind of story that crawls under your skin and won't let up. To the naked eye, that day was just normal, but beneath, fragments of an ancient puzzle were falling into place. Over 1,000 years ago, the metropolises of Thonis Heracleion and Canopus mysteriously disappeared, not into thin air, as one might expect, but into the sea itself, leaving behind secrets that would astonish even the most experienced authorities. Rumors spread, whispers were exchanged in hushed voices, and those who believed they understood the truth soon found that they had barely scratched the surface. This is the eerie tale of Egypt's sunken city and the secrets within. Let us begin. Where a legend vanished. For centuries, rumors spoke of a mighty Egyptian seaport engulfed by the waves. Bits of its tale had lived on in half myth, half history. Ancient Greek historians, such as Herodotus, described Heracleion as a prosperous commercial center where Mediterranean traders interacted with Egyptians, where large temples to goddesses and gods towered over the canals, and where enormous statues stood at the city gates. Egyptian documents, on the other hand, mentioned Thonis as a shipping center that was crucial to the lifeline of the kingdom. For centuries, academics assumed these were two separate cities, until accumulating proof indicated they were one and the same. Although noted in stone tablets and ancient writings, its actual location was lost. Century after century, changing coastlines along Egypt's Nile Delta, devastating earthquakes, and encroaching seas destroyed whatever was left. To most archaeologists, Heracleion, or Thonis, was lost forever. That perception was shattered in 2000, when French underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio led an expedition from the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology, IEASM, into Abu Qir Bay, roughly 5 miles offshore of Egypt's modern coastline. Armed with cutting-edge surveying tools, the team started picking up subtle anomalies beneath dense blankets of sand and clay. What they found was beyond all dreams, the remains of a vast city, buried under the ocean. Roads, temples, and monuments stood in suspended time, stretching over an enormous expanse larger than anyone had ever thought possible. A complex pattern of streets and canals disclosed a highly developed urban structure. Canal walls towered above the seafloor in straight lines, while the broken remains of quays stretched towards the long-gone shore. Temple foundations stayed where they were laid thousands of years ago, their stones inscribed with hieroglyphs that continue to whisper the city's name. The most stunning finds were 3 giant statues cut from red granite, portraying a pharaoh, his queen, and Hapi, the godlike personification of the Nile. While knocked over, the statues were not battered, resting forever as though positioned there by the sea itself. Their inscriptions, while worn, were still readable enough to declare the city's former glory and piety. The most conclusive find was with a big stone stele containing decrees from Pharaoh Nectanebo I. It was inscribed with both the Egyptian city name Thonis and the Greek city name Heracleion, thereby finally proving that the two names were for one and the same city. The secret of two vanished cities was solved, they were one and the same city. But the bigger question remained, how could a mighty capital city disappear so utterly? Ancient accounts suggested horrific earthquakes and giant floods, upheavals powerful enough to liquefy the earth under the city, a geological process understood today by the name soil liquefaction. When it happens, firm ground becomes quicksand, engulfing whole buildings, streets, and neighborhoods in seconds. Added to rising seas, such a catastrophe would have been disastrous for a harbor constructed on the edge of the water. Scientists examining the layer of sediment hypothesized that Heracleion's downfall was not a result of one disaster, but rather a sequence of collapses. A single earthquake could have damaged the imposing temples and docks, sending pieces of the city to the bottom. Other catastrophes can have later destroyed what was left, casting debris around the bay. Eventually, the Nile's silt covered the wreckage, sealing the city off for centuries. The consequences were immense. Prior to Alexandria, Heracleion had been Egypt's principal port of entry, dominating trade, taxation, and the exchange of goods between the Nile and the Mediterranean. Its abrupt fall rearranged Egypt's economic and political fortunes. To this day, only a small portion of the city has been uncovered. Murky waters and dense clay prevent exploration, but they also preserve delicate artifacts with outstanding preservation. Wooden vessels, gold currency, bronze weights, ritual vessels, and delicate jewelry have been unearthed, each object a shard of the forgotten history of the city. The myth was true. The city existed. But beneath its temples and canals, secrets lay buried by the thousands, waiting to be uncovered. And what researchers were soon to discover would rock the planet. How to find a sunken city. Looking for a hidden metropolis underwater starts not with divers but with technology. To find a city that lies hidden beneath thousands of feet of sediment, scientists use a careful combination of marine surveying, geophysical scanning, and robotic exploration. It begins with mapping the seafloor with side-scan sonar. Dragged astern of survey ships, sonar equipment sends out sound waves in broad sweeps, creating accurate images of the ocean floor. Abnormal patterns, straight edges, cornered edges, or unusual hills, register as possible ruins. Magnetometers are then employed to pick up minute changes in the Earth's magnetic field, created by embedded metal or mineralized rock. Ancient anchors, implements, or temple walls tend to leave such signatures. To look even deeper, sub-bottom profilers use low-frequency sound pulses to penetrate sediment, exposing buried foundations or centuries-old shipwrecks. Once anomalies are detected, differential GPS locates them with centimeter accuracy, critical to leading divers and remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, back to exact locations. ROVs, fitted with cameras, robotic arms, and sediment suction tools, are now irreplaceable. They do not tire or get scared, so they can stay underwater for hours, push into tight crevices, and recover delicate artifacts without disturbing the rest of the environment. All equipment operates in a smooth workflow, large-scale surveys refine anomalies, focused scans validate them, ROVs or divers inspect, and then documentation and recovery. But the sea is never obliging. Visibility is usually cut to a meter or less. Turbulent currents sweep equipment aside, and chunky silt blankets delicate artifacts. Even with modern gear, anomalies may prove only rocks or recent trash. Progress is slow for researchers, but the payoff of finding a vanished city makes years of toil worthwhile. Recent developments in high-resolution sonar and 3D mapping have revolutionized underwater archaeology. What was previously charted in weeks can now be mapped in days, and scholars can explore virtually before even putting foot to soil. The technology not only preserves delicate remains but enables excavations to be carefully planned as if performing surgery. The ocean floor, once nothing more than a void, is now a living map of history, just waiting to be uncovered. Treasures in the mud. Under the waters of the bay, Heracleon's ruins were anything but unspoiled. Buildings were shattered and half-submerged, objects held prisoner in banks of silt, centuries of history packed into a few feet of sediment. One of the most stunning locations was east of the Grand Temple of Ammonius, where enormous stone blocks had fallen into an old canal. Protected under them, artifacts remained untouched for more than 2,000 years. Excavators found silver ritual artifacts, bowls, ladles, and offering dishes, along with alabaster vessels that had been filled with holy oils. Their elegant craftsmanship indicated they had been treasures of the temple, kept intact only due to the shock collapse that trapped them. Close by, the ruins of a Greek temple dedicated to Aphrodite exposed imported wares, bronze statuettes, ceramic containers, and marble shards, demonstrating the city's status as a cultural crossroads. Arms lying around the vicinity of the sanctuary indicated that soldiers or mercenaries were present to defend the port. Elsewhere, underwater excavations uncovered a huge wooden galley, over 80 feet long, buried under silt. Specialists think it sank immediately when the harbor collapsed, under tumbling temple masonry. Most startling of all were simple woven baskets filled with fruit seeds, under clay, still intact. Although inedible, they gave scientists priceless information about the period's agriculture and diet. Every artifact recovered undergoes careful conservation, metals stabilized against corrosion, wood soaked in tanks to strengthen its fibers, and statues prepared for museum display. Yet much remains untouched, with sonar scans hinting at still hidden structures and shipwrecks. Researchers believe the most extraordinary discovery may still be waiting beneath the seabed. They were right. The tranquility before the epiphany. It was a peaceful morning in Abu Qir Bay, and the team readied for a departure unlike any other. In place of divers, they sent an underwater drone into an unknown tunnel, a thin crevice between fallen stone buildings found in recent imaging. Initially, the live feed showed nothing but fish, seagrass, and sediment. Then, colossal pieces of granite appeared, layered in a neat interlocking system no natural process could account for. As the ROV pushed deeper, faint carvings showed up on the stone faces, inscriptions in areas where no ruins were believed to have been present. The awareness was astounding, not only an expansion of the known city, but perhaps an entirely new district, never before recorded. Word got around fast. The implications were disturbing. If this part of ruins collapsed at once, too, then the extent of the ancient disaster was much bigger than anyone thought. Experts even cautioned that such geological circumstances, though rare, might still endanger modern-day cities in the Nile Delta. The tale of Heraclean had just gotten bigger than anyone could have imagined. Science, safety, and salvage. After the discovery, the mission's mission changed. Protecting the delicate ruins became the priority equal to recording them. Marine archaeologists and engineers developed precise 3D models through sonar and photogrammetry to create a lasting digital record. Sandbags supported loose rubble, and markers were placed to lead future expeditions. Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities worked with conservationists to determine which items could be recovered safely. The labor was tedious. Divers employed low-pressure dredges to carefully remove sediment from around artifacts. Each piece, be it a ceremonial vessel or a shard of pottery, was tagged, photographed, and catalogued before being taken out. Museums, such as the Grand Egyptian Museum, showed interest in exhibiting new discoveries, while foreign institutions requested cooperation. Egypt's sunken city, previously a myth, had become an international news story. But for all that has been revealed, the sea still keeps unto itself untold secrets hidden beneath its silt and clay, waiting, in silence, for the day they will rise once more. Frank Gadio directed the first phase of stabilization. Weighted sandbags were positioned to keep loose debris from washing into the central corridor. In parallel, divers set down a series of subtle markers to lead future expeditions to specific points of interest. This form of controlled intervention is essential. Deep ocean wrecks are not as exposed to natural forces and human activity, such as fishing and illegal diving, as shallow water sites are. At the same time, Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities started coordinating with conservation professionals to figure out what artifacts, if any, may be recovered safely without contaminating the site. Delicate metal objects tend to need urgent treatment as soon as they are removed from seawater to avoid quick corrosion. Organic substances like wood or braided fiber should be maintained underwater until they can be moved to specialized conservation tanks. The process is gradual. The divers are taught not to jerk artifacts from the silt, but to dig slowly around them with low-pressure water dredges, which wash away the sediment without harming the object. Each find is labeled, documented, and photographed in its in-situ position before it is removed. Even potsherds are catalogued since altogether they can provide insights into trade, technology, and daily life that one large artifact cannot. Public interest, naturally,